Hi, I'm Doug Berry, an associate broker with Long Foster Real Estate in Central Maryland. Today I'm talking about representation. Who represents you in a real estate transaction? You probably think if you're a buyer looking for a house and you're working with an agent, that agent is looking out for your best interest. Well, it's possible that they are, but it's also very possible that they are not looking out for you. Now, real estate agents are not devious people, but we do have laws and procedures we have to follow, and if you don't do things a certain way, those procedures could work against you. So what should you do to keep that from happening? Well, you want to start by arranging a meeting with an agent. Then come to the meeting prepared. Before you meet, pull together your most recent pay stubs, tax returns, and other financial information. The agent probably will not need to see any of those documents, but you will need that information available. When you meet for the first time, meet at the agent's office. You're meeting to get information, to understand what's going to happen, and for the agent to get information, and this is where the resources are. You're building a stable foundation for the entire home buying process. While you're at the meeting, the agent can help take the steps to get you pre-approved for financing and should discuss agency. Now, what is agency? Agency deals with representation. Who is representing whom in the real estate transaction? There are different ways an agent can work with you. The terminology may vary some from state to state, but the types of representation are basically the same. Under seller agency, the agent is representing the seller. This can be true even if the agent is working with the buyer. That means if you're buying a house and you work with the seller's agent, they must pass on anything you tell them that affects negotiations. If you tell them you're willing to pay $10,000 more, that information will be given to the seller. Fortunately, we now have the option of buyer agency. Buyer's agent has to keep the buyer's personal and negotiating information confidential, and it actually helps the buyer with their negotiations. As a buyer's agent, I've saved buyers thousands of dollars over what they would have paid if they did not have somebody representing them. If both the buyer and seller are represented by the same company, that creates what's called a dual agency. In many states, the same salesperson can represent both the buyer and seller in the same transaction, which in practice means that neither side will get assistance in their negotiations. In my state of Maryland, the law requires different salespeople. I can sell my own listing, but if I do, I can't actually represent the buyer. Now, if you want to be represented in your negotiations on a property, you will need to sign an agency agreement. That agreement will obligate you to work with that agent and that company, but it also obligates that agent and company to you. It doesn't just give them permission to represent you, it obligates them to actively work in your best interest. The agreement itself will be between you and the company or broker. The broker is the top licensee in that company. Your salesperson will act as the authorized representative of that company. At your first meeting, the agent is required to disclose in writing how these agency relationships work. The agent should carefully explain your options, and you should make sure you understand what your options are. Each state has its own form. This is the form we use in Maryland. Okay, so I know some of you are thinking, I don't want to spend that time in a meeting, I just want to go out and look at houses. But if you're serious about buying a house, you don't want to skip that step. You're investing $200,000 or $300,000, maybe a lot more. It's probably the biggest investment you've ever made. Is that something you want to take shortcuts on, or do you want to be sure everything is done properly and that you understand everything? Another strategy is to call around on advertised properties and to drive around on Sunday looking for open houses. But not every house is advertised, not every house is held open. More than likely, you will miss out on the property that is best suited to your needs. Not even the internet will give you the kind of detail an agent can provide. Some buyers will call the listing agent for any property they are interested in. And hey, I love selling my own listing. I get paid twice as much money. But when an agent sells their own listing, they are representing the seller, and the buyer will not get help in their negotiations. When it comes down to it, If you're a buyer, the only way to really look out for yourself is to work with the buyer's agent. Working with the buyer's agent will save you time, save you money, make the buying process easier, and protect you as a buyer. Do things the right way, and you can look forward to a much smoother process.